Good night, guys.
Good night. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Interesting that her near-death experience and stuff like that. I just keep thinking of our friend R.W. His near-death experience is what he went through.
Oh, I'm telling you, not only did he go through it once, but 6 times.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah. Can you imagine being his wife or best friend? He says, "Hey, let's go take a ride across country on the highway." You'd be like,
I wouldn't want to ride anywhere with him. Anyway, we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with me, Gary.
I was driving through Monument Valley on a star-studded sight, trying to find a white spot to rest my soul for the night. The moon was full and glowing, illuminating the desert floor. I saw rocks and sand and cactus from my driver's window door, when suddenly in front of me, like a vision from beyond, an apparition on the roadside appeared and then was gone. Something running fast.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me. And that thunder kind of fits in down at the compound for the next 10 days. They say nonstop rain, heavy winds, and, well, we've already had a little bit of thunder. Not quite as bad as that, but I tell you, winter is here. They said fall, but I know it's winter. I'll tell you, it's really getting chilly. Not like last year down at the compound. We made it all the way up to like November, where I didn't even have to turn the heat on. And I'll tell you, it was like fall and spring. Crazy. Things are just changing every day on our planet. James, are you still with us?
I am still here. Did you just say 10 days of rain possibly coming to you?
That's what they're saying in the forecast.
Wow, that's going to be some flooding somewhere.
Yeah, they call it dark skies for the next 10 days.
Dark skies. I guess that's one way to describe 10 days of rain. I call that a quarter of the flood from Noah.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't flood where I'm at because I'm right above the bay, but I'm high enough and up on a hill area, so I'm not worried about it. But I'll tell you, there are certain parts of my state that, 10 days of rain, I tell you, things start flooding.
Oh, that will definitely raise the water levels. And think of all the water that's going to run off the mountains, because you got real mountains out there.
Well, hopefully they don't get rain, they get snow, and that's what we need up in the mountains. I'll tell you what. Mount Rainier, I'll tell you, of course this year it had more snow on it. The year before it, I swear to God, come about like end of August, early September, there was hardly any snow on the mountain. I mean, I can go out and walk certain parts of my property. I can see Mount Rainier beautifully from where I'm at. And that mountain stands out, almost everywhere on this side of the state and the other side of the state. I mean, that's a tall mountain.
It is. That's something. I'm curious, how far are you from? I'm just curious how far you can see it, in miles.
I'm probably about 100 miles away, 90 miles away from Mount Rainier.
Oh, wow, and you can still see it. See, that tells you how high that mountain is. And you mentioned about snow in the mountains. That was one of the problems, I think, down in California or Northern California there where they had the droughts. They weren't getting enough snow during the winters, so therefore it would be drought during the summers because there would be not enough runoff.
Well, in California, the last couple of years, I tell you, that's what is gone. The weather pattern, has changed. My daughter and my grandkids and her husband live in Hemet, California, not very far away from San Diego, maybe a 45-minute drive away, an hour drive away. I can tell you, when I went there the very first time, I looked at their property and nobody in their front yards had grass. And I went in the backyard and she had a lemon tree and I looked at the ground, it was all dirt. And I go, don't you guys have grass? And she goes, can't afford it because if you're only allowed to use so much water or they hit you with heavy fines. Well, the last 3 years, the weather pattern has changed because the last time I was, up visiting her after I, saw my friend, that was like 3 years ago. I was coming and stayed in Hemet for a couple of days. Beautiful weather all the way from Tacoma, Washington, all the way to Nevada, all the way to, Southern California. Just beautiful weather. And then I'm at her house for a half a day, and on the news, they said the huge storm was going to hit around Sacramento all the way to, Washington. I freaked out, and I go, that's not going to happen. I wanted to go back the way we did. It would have been a long way back instead of going on Interstate 5 and making pretty much a straight run. We would have added about another 1,300 miles to the trip going the back way around. But we got maybe 100 miles away from where she lived. Downpour. Like you wouldn't believe. I'm on a motorcycle. My two sons, actually my one son, my other son at the same time, we got a phone call that he was maybe going to die. He crashed his Harley on the freeway and got thrown 300 feet. So that was another reason why we decided to head back. But I had to go from nonstop rain from Sacramento all the way up to Tacoma, Washington, all the way to Gig Harbor, down to the compound, pouring down rain. Now, I'll be honest with you. I rode a motorcycle for years, but I kind of avoided riding in rain, maybe like 5 or 10 miles at the most each time, just to get home when it rained. We were talking about 1,400 miles of riding in the rain. Scary.
Wow. I don't know how you did that because you'd be so saturated. And sometimes that rain, unless you're really closed up, it really kind of can hurt. And after a while that was just total hours of being saturated. It's a wonder you didn't get pruned up. And I don't know how you did it.
I did. I was soaked all the way down to the expression, down to the shorts. I mean, I had rain gear, but the rain gear kind of melted a little bit because the heat,
yeah.
From the engine of the Harley puts out a lot of heat. That's the only thing that kept me warm because it was cold rain and the motor kept my legs warm. That was about it. But I tell you, it was horrible. Then we had to go over 2 mountain passes to get home. And one of them, it was snow all over the road, and it was snowing. And that was the first time I ever rode a motorcycle through snow. Scary experience. I never would do that ever again.
I couldn't imagine riding over the mountain pass and being in that snow, especially if it was deep, because let's face it, motorcycles aren't meant to be riding in deep snow.
They're not.
At all.
They're not made to be ridden in any snow or ice because you got 2 wheels, and you can just go over like that. I mean, that was probably about 100-mile ride going from the beginning of one pass to coming out of the pass in Grants Pass, Oregon. I tell you, I was scary, so scary that, when I got back, I didn't even get my butt on the motorcycle for almost a month. I was burned out.
Oh, wow. That definitely would need a break. I had a little near-death experience. I didn't die, but I had what I call a near-death experience. You remember them ATVs back in the early 80s, three-wheelers?
Very dangerous.
Oh, my goodness, were they ever. My dad had one, and he lives way out in Bigfoot country, dirt road, and it was up this little mountain. He said, yeah, go ahead. I said, let me take that. And he said, yeah, take that and go fishing. So I went fishing. So I'm coming down the dirt road coming home, and, I'm cranking up, going about 35, 40, going down this dirt road, down this little mountain. And those things, I know why they're dangerous, because if you just sway your weight just a quarter of an inch to the right or left, that whole ATV, it would shoot off that direction. And the road was all bumpy and rocky, so I hit a pothole. So, of course, when you hit one, it's like you bounce up a little bit. And when you come back down, my weight shifted in it. And I went clear through a fence and down this pasture field. It was straight down. To this day, I don't know how I didn't reckon that thing roll all over me and break my neck or something. I don't know how it had to be act of God, because I didn't reckon. It was funny. I come out of the bottom of the field, and when I'm coming out the gate, my dad was there. He goes, "What? What'd you do? Come across the woods?" I didn't tell him. I almost killed myself coming out the gate because I went down this cliff into the field. But that was scary.
Well, you're lucky, because that's why they outlawed those. They did. They were a big seller. That's why they came out with four-wheel ones. A lot of people died on them. Not just that. I mean, they could flip over like really easy. It's like riding a tricycle with a motor on it. Very dangerous.
That is the most dangerous thing I ever been on, and I'd never been on one before till that day. That was the last time I got on it. But the front tire, they would be real hard, so it would be just bounce, especially on a bumpy dirt road with big rocks and whole potholes. So it's dirt, so you're slipping and sliding, and it didn't take much for me to shift my weight just a little bit on one of them bumps, and it was over. At 30 mile an hour going down that mountain, I was off to the races, shot up through that fence. I was airborne. I don't know how I didn't die.
Well, you could have had a near-death experience just on that thing, or a death experience, one of the two.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I tell you what, it really, it was all I could do to keep my composure, because I didn't want my dad to know. I think he knew, because he was like, "Why'd you coming up through this pasture field? The road's over there."
I'm really confused at this point. Like with near-death experiences and when you die. I mean, there's so many people, that tell you these stories. Like, R.W. had some experiences that he shared with us. What it was like going through the tunnel, seeing the bright lights and the multiple colors, and seeing relatives. And then I've had people on the show, that were in the operating room and died on the operating table. And then they hear, like I was mentioning, they hear the doctor joking around, "Well, I went golf the other day and, I didn't do very good. I lost, on a bet." It's scary, because, when you die, is it your brain dying? It's, putting out these hormones and stuff in your body, to ease your death, and you're hallucinating, or is it a real near-death experience? Are you actually going through a tunnel, and going to, maybe heaven, or on the way to heaven? Or is it this all in our brain?
I think you raise a good point. I think it could be a little bit of everything, because it's hard to say it's all in the brain if you're above. If you left your body and you're looking down, you can hear what they're saying and see them saying it. And you could describe things that's on the light from up above or something. That's hard to say that it's maybe a hallucination from your brain or whatever. But, yeah, I agree with you. And another thing, not everybody has the same experience or sees the same thing. That's another thing. And I'm kind of curious how different cultures across the world, how they see things. I would like to look into that and do some research on that maybe and see what I find out.
Well, there's a topic this weekend you can do. Check into it. But, again, I was listening to a doctor explaining, how long a brain lives. For a long time they figured, you're brain dead after like 3.5, 4 minutes. You're gone. But now they're finding out the brain doesn't die as fast as people think it did, or the doctors, thought it did. They're saying the brain can actually survive for 15, 20 or so minutes. And it's still... Have you heard the expression, when you're dead, you know you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.